Hi, Coach. I'm Jason Honstadt, and I want to give you today 8 of my tips for how to run a great power run play. I love the power run play. It's definitely one of my favorite plays, and I've learned a lot this year running it. It's one of those plays that it seems really simple at first, and you go out there day one and you're running it, and then you start digging down into it, or you're going up against a defense that starts blitzing or bringing pressure, and it starts getting real complicated. And so this whole season we've had a lot of issues, a lot of things that we've worked through, and I really have hopefully come up with some pretty cool things that I think you might be interested in that might help you run your power play better. So I'll go ahead and get started. First of all, pulled up, this is I right formation, and I'll talk about the fullback first. So with our fullback, we put him at 4 yards behind the play side guard. We have his leg straddling the outside leg of that play side guard. We have 2-foot splits, and that fullback, his job is, of course, on a typical power play, is to kick out the end. Let me get to a better play here. So right here, this is a typical fullback's job right here because I've got 2 plays I want to show you. So he's going to kick out that end. Could be a linebacker, could be an end, depends on the front. But the biggest thing that I've found this season is I've had trouble with my fullback standing up, and then they try to go right at that guy, and it almost turns into a stalk block. It does turn into a stalk block, and then I don't get him attacking the end, and it messes up the timing, and it just looks bad because you can't stalk block a defensive end. They're attacking, they're squeezing, and I figured out if he stays on a path and runs real tight past that tackle right there and then bends it out and kicks out the linebacker, we get a great hole opened up and he gets a great block because the linebacker's got to decide, he's either coached up to squeeze down inside or he's coached up to take this guy on. And so we want to take the tightest possible angle to where our gap is going to be and then drive him out of the gap, pry him out of the gap, because if he squeezes just a little bit, we can't get outside and log that. If he doesn't squeeze well enough, we want to kick him out. If he's really good at squeezing down inside, like some ends and linebackers are taught, then we can seal him inside, we can block his outside shoulder, but we want to make him be very decisive and totally squeeze down. So it's rare actually that we don't kick a guy out because we're coming so tight to the tackle. So we kick him out. So my coaching point is this: the fullback's got to drive out full speed through the outside leg of that tackle, and he cannot be looking up and saying, "Where is this linebacker? I'm going to run at him." And that's the biggest, most common error: is fullbacks look up and they run right at the end. And sometimes teams might have 2 guys out here, and he'll get confused. He'll go to the wrong guy. But if we stay on our path, he's always going to get the right guy because he's going to be opening up that gap in the right spot. So keeping his head down. Sometimes I tell him, just don't even look up. Keep your head down for first couple steps. Then when you look up, the guy that's there, you're gonna blow him up. You're gonna drive him out. And then when they start to get the idea, I'll let them start looking up again and seeing whether they need to seal him inside or kick him out. But the first drill I do is staying on that path. I put a cone right there. They got to run over that cone. We've got an end or a linebacker with a pad, and I make sure they're going to the right. Their right shoulder is on the pad. If you teach a shoulder block. Which I kind of like that because you're just driving through them full speed. So that's my first tip. Let me go on to my second tip. Second tip is Deuce or Trey blocking. All right, so I just put this in for our last game, and I really like it. So we play either odd front teams or even front teams, and you probably do too. So you're getting either an odd front, and typically it's a 3-4. We don't see a whole lot of 3-5, although we did see one 3-5, or we see a 4-3, and it's the. I'll show you the 4-3 here. When I go back to the 4-3, you look at this huge gap right here. I love running power against a 4-3, but kind of the issue we're having is the tight end's rule is he's going to block first defender down inside, and that's great. Except there's no one head up over the tackle in a traditional 4-3. You got a 3 technique, or in the gap, um, in that C gap. So the tight end is kind of at a loss. We've got guys, they'll say, oh, there's nobody there. Then they'll block the end out. And I'll say, no, 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 no. Actually, I do like that against a 4-3, but we need to call it so that the fullback knows that he's switching with the tight end and going to linebacker. Every time that the other options are to send your Y to first man inside. You can say, well, the first man inside is the linebacker, and you send him right up to the linebacker. And that can work. But it becomes a different block. The tight end has to break down and stalk block that linebacker, basically. He can't just pick a path and run through him hard because the linebacker will step up. It's a much more difficult block, I think, than driving off the line and driving a guy down. You could go to the middle linebacker. Some teams do that, and that's not a bad idea, but then you're really counting on your pulling guard to be the kind of pulling guard who can, if the linebacker fills, he kicks him out, or if the linebacker sits, he pulls up inside, he can find him. That's not the easiest thing to do. So what is the easiest way, simplest way to block this? We make a deuce call. That's a double team combo on the tackle here, and the tight end knows, all right, deuce call, no one inside, I'm blocking my end out. And then our fullback hears deuce call, and he goes right to the linebacker. So I like the deuce call, and we ran it last game. It worked like a charm. It was great every time we ran it. We had guys blocking the right guys, great impact or great contact coming off the line. It was just a matter of maintaining our blocks, which we need more work on. But the call worked really well against a 4-3. And sometimes they walk their linebacker up outside, and they'd slant the end inside. And since our Y was blocking the end, that end who would slant inside, I told the Y, just stay on him, just drive him down inside. And I communicated with the fullback, all right, if the Y is driving his man down inside and you're on your path, you're just kicking out the next man. So the linebacker showed up out there, and we had some really good plays just off of that with them trying to change it up on us. All right, so my next tip, backside you-me call. And this was about a mid-season adjustment for us when I figured this one out. I'm not traditionally a line coach, so I'm learning some new things. So I was talking to one of our line coaches who had run a lot of power and a lot of pulling guard when he was in high school and college. And he said, a real easy thing you can do is just have a you or a me call. And what that is you've against a 4-3, you've got a backside 1. Sometimes he's a 2 technique head up. Rarely is he going to be a 3 technique unless you get rid of the tight end and you're running it to the weak side or to an underfront. But the center's communicating. His job is to communicate, do I back block on that tackle or do I go to linebacker? And what's the backside tackle do? Does he scoop block on that tackle or does he go to backside linebacker? So who's going where is basically the question. And the center can make a you call. All right, I'm going to backside backer. You scoop block the tackle. And he's going to make that call if he doesn't think he can get to the tackle. So maybe a 2 technique, definitely a 3 technique. He's going to make that call. A me says, I got it. You go to linebacker. Very simple adjustment. I thought it kind of put everybody on the same page working as a team backside instead of him just trying to get him or just going and nobody getting him and the tackle just having to try to read it and get it. So now we have good communication. So you or me call, I recommend putting that in right away. especially against the 4-3 front. Okay, halfback path and cuts is my next tip. Halfback, he's got to follow the same path as the fullback, and this is just makes sense. That way, he's going to hit the hole right as it opens up. If he's got a little crack of a hole right there, he's going to just get right through it right there. Okay. I do kind of let my halfback. I let him have a lot of free reign. We've got a guy who has just some crazy ability. He can move, and if he sees a hole and darts through there, you're thinking, wow, I look great as a coach. So I have let him basically, if a hole opens up like A gap here, if he jumps into that A gap, I'm fine with that because teams will prepare for power against us, and it's kind of our core run play, and we're going to hang our hat on it. We're running it, but teams will flow. They'll see power. They'll see the pulling guard. Linebacker's going to flow. Linebacker's going to step up. They're thinking it's coming right out here, and sometimes that play side A gap opens up, and he just takes 2 steps. He reads everybody's playing C gap. All right, A gap right there. He jumps through it, and we get a nice gain. So I let him make that adjustment. My big thing with him though is he's got to make a read. He's got to go for it. He can't dance around here and try and guess and pick a hole and I don't like that. No, it's after his first 2 steps. You got to pick one and go, and then I'll live with I'll live with whatever's after that. And eventually, maybe it takes a couple play. Maybe they do it all game, but my belief is that linebacker is going to say, I'm getting beat here. He's going to start filling. And then, oh boy, I can't wait for the next power play because then I've got my best guy, my halfback, busting through the right hole with the right blockers, and we are going to have a really nice play then. So my next tip, we've got wide receiver blocking. It's just a simple tip. I just tell my wide receivers, go inside to the safeties. We're trying to get as many helmet on helmet, not helmet on helmet, but we're trying to get as many big on big blockers on bodies as we can because the run's inside. He might cut it outside towards that corner. My belief is corners are the worst tacklers, so I'm not too worried about that. Let the corner make the tackle. If he can, good for him. If not, even better for us. But we'll block the safeties unless you scout and see something different that you'd rather have them stay on the corners. But I like everybody coming inside on inside runs. So inside run, receivers come inside and block a safety. If they can't get there, then they can come back out and block a corner. Offensive line splits. So my last 2 tips. All right, offensive line splits. Like I said before, we do 2-foot splits. Here's where later in the season I teach my guys to play around with this. Teach my Y, if we're playing a 4-3 team, to widen out a little bit. Maybe he can pull that end out wider, as long as he can solo block him, which he should be able to. Or if he slants inside, I guess if we see him slanting inside a lot, we won't widen the split too much. But if that end is always coming up field, then we'll widen him out, and it opens up a nice big hole in there. Also, anytime we get double teams, tighten down your splits. So as you're coming up to the line, you see traditional 4-3, all right, play side tackle, he's going to squeeze it down a bit, maybe a 1-foot split there, and that helps him get good drive on that double team. Backside guard can tighten down a little bit. And I'm just playing around with stuff because, sometimes you play around with this stuff and you find a play and they can't stop it. And then it gets really fun then. So we have other plays that we can run that will look the same, and we can run counter off of this, and people, him tighten his split down, you might think, oh, he's pulling, oh, we'll run counter right here on you. Okay, he's double teaming there, and halfback's coming back through that B gap over there, and they don't know. So I'm fine with showing some stuff because I think if you show some tendencies, they start to think about it, and then they guess wrong. I love it when I start hearing teams yell, power, 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 and I'll call counter the next play because that's what they're looking for. So defenses that talk, I like playing games with them. So my last tip is offensive line angles. And early in the season, this was something we picked up. We were getting beat bad. We were running power, and guys just kept coming through us. I was thinking, why are these guys coming through the line so easily? Looked at the film, started looking at the line, their blocks, and their angles were off. They kept stepping right towards the defender. So just something to look for and something to maybe remind your guys, especially if you've got a team that is a team that penetrates. When they penetrate really hard and you've got an aggressive blocker coming upfield hard, they've got to take a better angle. Sometimes they got to block straight down if they're down blocking. So maybe we got a linebacker blitzing right here. This is another situation. Linebackers, they're taught to blitz hard. They're coming upfield. That play side guard, he can't step right at the linebacker. He's got to step straight down and drive him down. And if he doesn't do that, he's going to get the back end of the backer and end up pushing him right into the pulling guard, and the play is all messed up then. So that was my last tip. So I hope you enjoyed these tips. Again, I got a website, spreadfootballcoach.com. Come visit it. My whole goal is to help coaches become better coaches. I want to present a simple but effective offensive scheme that can help you dominate, but feel really comfortable as a coach running it and feel like you know what you're doing and feel like you can call plays and not have to be a genius with the plays you're calling. So hope you enjoyed it, Coach. That's my 8 tips for how to run your power play better, how to run an awesome power play. Please like this video. If you could give me something back, like this video, comment on this video. That really helps me out, and I appreciate it. I love feedback. You can also contact me. Go to my website, spreadfootballcoach.com. Go to my About page. I've got an email address, spreadfootballcoach@gmail.com. You can reach me there. And love to hear from you. All right, Coach. Have a good one.